Okay, this podcast is definitely for the people who are going through the go at the minute and trying to grow their business. I've been so selfish in this podcast. This podcast of Mel Lusty is fucking so inspiring. If you're going for a business right now and you're growing your team and you're trying to get somewhere, this is one to watch. Fucking buckle up, watch it. You'll absolutely love it. Get a beer and a bag of crisps. It's just amazing. If you think about growing a team, digging in the deep, you think you're working too hard, you're not. Thanks for listening.
Okay, boys, in 3, 2, 1, action.
Hi, and welcome to the Tezlom Podcast. I'm very grateful for this guest coming on the podcast today. I've only spoke to a few people about him and I've only met him once before, so I'm extremely grateful for him to come on. If you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself and just give people who listen to the podcast a little insight into what you've done in the franchise industry.
Oh, wow. How long we got?
Yeah, exactly. Try and shrink it down a little bit. Give me some subtitles.
Yeah. Hi, Melvin Lusty, predominantly known as Mel. Franchisees probably call me other things, but I'm probably best not sharing those sort of things. So where am I now? I'm 67, and it's worthwhile counting back from 67.
Yeah.
I started off as a land surveyor. I did 5 or 6 years as a land surveyor. My brother bought a franchise with Service Master. So back in 1980, I ended up taking over the franchise from him because he made a total cods of it. And so at the age of 23, I find myself $7,000 in debt. What's that, 40 years ago, 44 years ago?
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money. But I took on all his debts and built the franchise. So that was with Service Master. So I did nearly 10 years with Service Master. Wow. By the time I left Service Master, I always claimed that I was the largest Service Master franchisee at the time. Sold that up, 140 grand back in 90, I think it was, 89, 90, something like that. You'll have to forgive me hesitation. I don't spend a lot of time looking backwards. So
Don't.
I'll have to
Listen.
Dig for the dates.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Bear with me. Sold that up. I had 140 grand in the bank. At the same time, I think interest rates were running at 16%. So my money went offshore to Jersey or Guernsey, one of those, and I was earning 16% on it. I'd worked my nuts off for 10 years, so it was let's have some time off.
Yeah.
I had about 3 months off, got pretty damn bored. I then found Mansfield Brewery, who owned Rainbow, and said, any jobs going? The thought of me working for somebody else was different, but I thought I'll give it a go. Yeah. Having worked for myself for 10 years, I didn't realise, once they realised who I was, at Service Master's #1 franchisee, and they were trying to do a knock-off of Service Master, if you like. They recruited me as operations manager, as it was then.
Wow.
And within, how many months? 6 months, I ended up buying it off them for £1.
Wow.
Took all the debts and everything that they had going, and then built Rainbow over 12 years, sold Rainbow. And then that was 20 years ago. Feels like yesterday. Stayed around for a year because I was obliged to contractually. And then since then, I've been chairman of Premier Sport for 10 years. Worked with Revive on their board as a non-exec director for 6, 7, 8 years. And then I partly owned Chemex as well for the best part of 15 years. That's not my claim to fame, Chemex. We don't need to talk a lot about that. Okay. Let's concentrate on the...
Yeah, we'll concentrate on
the... If you could, please. And then that's it now. I find myself twiddling my thumbs. I am now officially bored. I've just built my own house. So I had quite a sizable house down in the Cotswolds, which took 3 or 4 years. And so that I stopped everything to just concentrate on building a house. So that's a condensed version. Right? So,
I don't even know where to start with all that.
No.
One thing, probably the worst place to start, but it's just an interesting thing, because my dad's been involved in something like that, is how do you get a company to buy, how do you buy a company for £1 and why?
It helps if they're in the shit.
Is it?
If they're in the shit, then...
but why would you buy a company that's in the shit?
Okay. I was a franchisee with a major, one of the largest franchise companies in the world, Service Master, based out of Chicago, Illinois. Became their biggest franchisee, like I said. I was always getting frustrated, so I bought 3 territories additionally to the one that I had in Wolverhampton. And with Rainbow, what gave me the opportunity was a territory that was massive.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I went from an area that covered Wolverhampton, Stoke, Newcastle, Utah, to, if you like, I got the whole of the UK that I could actually grow. The deal being I had to sublet it and if you like, recruit franchisees to do the business. Now, understanding the franchising and how franchising worked, I thought, all right, then I was just thinking that's a great opportunity for me to now not worry about the boundaries. Yeah. And that was the reason. If you want to get into the detail of why they sold it, let me give you some headlines. Top of my head again, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I bought it in November 90, didn't I? So I bought it in November 90 for £1.
And more, instead of the figures, Mel, just kind of your emotions. Why did you want to? Is it just a lust for growing something?
It's all sort of linked. It's all sort of linked, Ryan. I was just running on to they'd sold 40 franchises. They only had 20 odd that were trading. Yeah. This was in the space of less than 3 years.
Wow, big growth.
So they were churning the franchising. As soon as I started to speak to the franchisees, a lot of them were somewhere they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
They were in a heap of crap. All right, they were in major financial troubles, you know. Yeah. And they didn't know the way out of it. So for me, very quickly, it tugged on my heartstrings. It's a bit heavy. All right, I wanted to get involved with them.
I think you knew what you could do, though.
I thought I knew what I could do.
Yeah.
I thought I knew what I could do. Did I know whether I could share what I knew or
There's
what I thought I knew? Actually get them to pull out of themselves what I thought they could and they didn't necessarily know they could. But I got very confrontational fairly early on with them because they were in deep poop. Both the franchisor had been, or was while I was an employee, but the franchisees were in the mire. So I was basically saying are you prepared to do whatever it takes to get yourself out of crap? And invariably they say, yes, of course I am. Yeah. And then you'd start explaining what it was. Do you want to go door knocking? Oh, I don't need to go door knocking. I thought you said you were prepared for everything. And I would get very confrontational with them. And some of the guys jumped on board, did everything that I suggested they did. Can't tell them they're franchisees. All right, all us franchisors can do is suggest strongly. Ultimately, we can make the final decision and get rid. And so I did put some of them out of their misery.
Mel, I'm going to have to stop you, right? I'm sorry, this is where I go off on a tangent. What's your belief on doing whatever it takes? Like, 'cause my belief on doing whatever it takes is sacrifice for family, sacrifice personal time, put myself through embarrassing moments, put myself through stress, cry, upset people. Is that what you think it takes? Thank you.
No,
it's not everyone admits that, do they? Not everyone's willing to say it's going to take fucking everything.
Everything that you've got. And the biggest thing that will have to happen is it's going to impact the family. And a lot of franchisees, a lot of business owners, not just franchisees, if you like, aren't prepared to do that. I'm not saying it's a necessary evil, but you've got to be prepared to do that. I didn't see my kids grow up. I built Rainbow in 12 years. From the network turnover of 350, when I sold it was over 30 million.
Wow.
All right. At the same time, when I first bought the business, we had 2 kids. Within a year, we had another kid, and Sue looked after the family. And I'll say, Ryan, I couldn't have done what I did without Sue looking after the kids.
100%.
All right, that's easy, full stop. I really could not have done it.
Yeah.
And that ain't some American twaddle where they all say, oh, my family. No, I really physically couldn't have done.
Yeah.
All right, I would sleep in the car. I would sleep on franchisee settees because I couldn't afford, all right, to pay for the hotel. All right, so I would have long evenings, long days with franchisees, sleep on a settee. I've actually slept on the franchisee's floor in the past in a sleeping bag because they didn't have the room, they had the kids, there was nowhere else. I couldn't afford a hotel room. And so I would do all of that. So I'm always going to lead from the front, Ryan. So, I'm going to be the first to cry.
Yeah.
All right. And you can't bring that on, but I will. If I'm getting that emotionally involved with someone, then that will happen for me. But I will always lead from the front. I will always lead to the front. I've never done it for money.
Yeah.
I've done it to watch people grow. If I can see people grow, then that's all the money that's it's worth for me. Now
100%.
I'm a millionaire, yeah, whoopity-doo, all right? I still don't spend the money. The money's still safe in the bank, and I'm giving it to kids.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have the millionaire's lifestyle that I could have, should have done for the last 20 years. I still struggle with holidays, all right? What I do miss is actually that involvement with individuals and watching them grow, both at work. So in my office, I used to love bringing people in as YTSs, as juniors, as somebody who didn't know, and them eventually becoming managers, and in some cases some of my employees becoming directors of my company. All right, that's worth all the money, all the tea in China.
Oh, it's
and
fucking the best thing in the world.
And the same with the franchisees, is getting a franchisee to actually become worth more in all sorts of directions, to watch them getting rewarded, employing people and growing people as well. That's if you like, that's the reason for doing it. If you speak to people who haven't got a clue, Ryan, all right, they will say that's a load of tosh, and you can't run a business doing it for money. All right, we all know you're in the people business almost a lot more than I ever was. All right, but we can't achieve what we want to do without on our lonesome, without people.
No,
doing
you need
it.
to bring it in, yeah.
You've got, people have got to join you on this journey.
And that bit of it, Mel, is the hardest bit, is the tears and the late nights and the discussions and the arguments and of getting people there, and then the growth you go as an individual is fucking nuts.
I'm happy grabbing them by the scruff of the neck, Ryan, if they're willing. If they're not willing, I ain't going to grab them by the scruff of the neck. I'll put my efforts elsewhere. The people who say I am up for the scrap and then they actually start showing it, it's the words and actions thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, it's always about the words and actions. And if somebody's up for it and then I start seeing the actions, then I'm up for it. I'll give you Smith a mention, my franchisee down in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Smithy bled me. All right, he knew I was a top franchisee, service master. Smithy joined me at Rainbow as an existing carpet cleaner. He bled the hell out of me, all right, like I've never been bled before. He would say to me, "What's next, Mel?" And I'd say, "Well, have you done so-and-so?" And he'd say, "Yeah, I've done this, this and this, and some more." And he was like, "Oh," and then he'd ask me again, and then we'd bleed. And then we started to bounce off each other. Then we started to headbutt a little bit, all right, because he was actually drawing. But it was a wonderful relationship me and Smithy had. I mean, it really was good, because he was pushing me as a franchisor, and I saw so much in myself that when I was pushing Service Master, when I was a franchisee, I was a pain in the arse. All right, I was a serious pain in the arse.
Why? Because of the appetite for growth, do you think? Or?
No, was it growth at the time, Ryan? I don't know if it was. Yeah, I don't know if it was growth. I presume it was. All right, I was always after something better.
Yeah.
I wasn't after growth necessarily, but I suppose it was. That's me talking a bit conundrum through my body a little. So yes, it was. But I was wanting them. They give me very little support. I had one visit a year.
Wow. All
right, and that visit, all right, as time went on, they would be saying, "Mel, what are you doing that's different to the rest of the franchisees, so we can share it with the rest of the network?"
Yeah.
And I found that incredibly frustrating,
Yeah.
that I was paying my dues, and I've never objected to paying my dues. Paying my fees, I've always paid my fees. I've always paid them vaguely on time. All right? All right. It's always been the right number, so I've never wanted to diddle. But I always felt, and that's what I flipped with Rainbow, that was one of the things I put in place is, what haven't they given me?
Yeah.
Should they have done more for me? So where I would listen to Smithy, all right, and not necessarily enjoy what he was saying. Yeah. All right. He would then help me develop the system. He would help me develop what we were actually trying to produce for the franchises to grow their business.
Was that difficult in places? Like sometimes, did you feel like your ego was pushed a little bit sometimes? Was someone, the franchisee, testing you in that way, or did you embrace it, or how did you learn to embrace it, or were you there already? Or did you ever question it and think, "Fuck this, I'm not having this guy tell me what to do"? Or
I was that man, wasn't I, Ryan? Like I said,
yeah.
I was that man for 10 years at Service Master.
Yeah.
I'd question the leaflets that they came out with. I was a pain in the arse at a regional meeting. All right, I would be pestering, but a lot of my growth as a franchisee came from fellow franchisees. Yeah. All right, I would bleed those franchisees. So Smithy was only doing to me
what you've done,
what I'd done to others for 10 years, and I tell people to do to this day. All right, is bleed the hell out of. Find out who the good people are. All right, you know, I go sideways with this one, Ryan. All right, to help answer the question, we've all got franchisees. that will look for people who are like-minded. So if the world's a bag of shit, they will find franchisees who can confirm it's a bag of shit.
Yeah.
If you've got franchisees travelling the same road who think this is wonderful and the best thing sliced cheese, all right, is that the right phrase? I don't know if that's the right phrase.
No.
They will actually find people who are thinking and looking the same.
Like-minded people.
All right, so like-minded people. So what I will do with franchisees when I'm talking to a franchisee, motivationally, if that's the right word, I'll actually say to him, speak to somebody from the other side, all right, to get a sort of... So if you're a struggling and ailing franchisee, I'll speak to Smithy, for example. Yeah, but Smithy's world's different. He's got this, he's got that, and he's like, oh, the grass is greener one. Oh, he's got a greener field. And he was like, okay, talk to him. No, I don't want to talk to him. He's not going to say what I need and want to hear. Ryan, I am that questioner. I do want my... As a franchisor, I want my system to develop. I want my ops manuals, my systems that I've got to get better. Now, as a franchisor, I wasn't for many years playing the game. All right, I didn't have my own managed operation. So the only people who were actually out there trading face to face with the end user were my franchisees. Right. They were the ones that I needed to tell me what was going on in the marketplace. Right. I needed that feedback. All right, so I could actually implement that and put it in place. Right. I was never one for an ego. Your argument better be good if you want to argue the toss with me. All right, either in the boardroom, face to face, wherever it is. The argument better be good. It better be substantiated. All right, you better be able to... It ain't good enough to just say, I think you should be doing that. I'm always going to say why. What you're basing that on, what proof have you got? Let's have a look at it. And what we will do is take an idea that might come from a franchisee and share it with franchisees that I could trust will actually try it. And when those guys are trying it and it works, then it becomes implemented and we rewrite the franchise manual. So I was always that person that was always wanting the manual change. Service master were very strict in as much as he'd had to go all the way back to Chicago for a rewrite. And he's like...
You're never going to eat your voice heard, are you?
This ain't England. Our market is slightly different over here. Massively different to over here than it is over in the States.
That's so fucking... I don't know what the right word is, but I think I'd admire for the bit of work where you're getting the feedback from the franchisees and then suitably arguing the toss about if it's a good idea then and then implementing it. It's a fucking great idea. You know?
It should be the norm for franchisors, really. You know, the franchisor has to know best. We have to ultimately make the decisions. But we have a pond of incredible people that are our franchisees that are travelling a journey that is on the sort of down the same vague roads as ours, but not really. And what we get from franchisees as well is locality, is their location. You know, especially the jocks. The jocks are always going to say something's different.
They always do.
The guys in Yorkshire are always going to be doing something different. And invariably, there might be a local mentality. That doesn't mean you're going to rewrite the whole operations manual. We're going to have a jock division and a Yorkshire division, all right? And the smoke's always different anyway, all right? Because it's always easier in the smoke, isn't it? All right, so you've got all of these differences, but you can't. But take it on board, listen to them. There might be an element of, and what you do as a franchisor is take it collectively, all right, and bring it into the middle, and then is there something in here? Is there something in here that we can use as a franchisor?
Yeah, it's happened to me without even thinking about it. So the jocks, Scotland, Kevin will kill me, but I love him to pieces.
We love him, don't we?
But so they have a competitor that uses a really online system for booking staff, and then we found it down in Bromley, central London. Funnily enough, the other franchises did, but it was particularly in that sector, that part. So we basically reinvented our CRM system and found a system and kind of edited a little bit and changed it, and now we've got our online booking system. We're just rolling it out next week. But that's a perfect example of listening to them, taking it on board, changing. And then again, Kevin, we just did a conference the other day, and Kevin was the only one who kind of give really bad negative feedback. Kay doesn't know this yet. But he was saying, I understand it was like the conference was about giving like a emotional wow to your customers and stuff. But Kevin was saying it wasn't really up his street and he didn't really like the way it was laid out, and he wanted to do the peer-to-peer thing. We didn't do much peer-to-peer. In fact, we did no peer-to-peer in that conference. We did some role plays. And he was like, he found the best part of it was the peer-to-peer thing. So I'm going to go back out and say to the rest of the network, do you want me to bring back the peer-to-peer piece in the conferences and see? Because that seemed to land the best. Because I'm asking the franchisees to come together every 2 months, but then the feedback's 3 months, so we're going to do it in June. And I guess I am kind of doing them things, aren't I, really, when I think about it? It's just, I didn't really think about it until now.
I think you do by default, Ryan. I think if you're trying to do it properly, I think you do it by default.
You have to, don't you?
You have really. And it's hard for.
It's not a dictatorship, is it? It can't be.
Did you just mention the dictator word? Okay. I always used to say, I've always said, and I still say today, I run a dictatorship. All right, which is sort of counter whatever it may be. Yeah. Somebody always had to make the decision.
Yeah.
All right, but as a dictator, I would facilitate absolutely everything else that happened. All right, in the board, I've touched on it earlier. If somebody's going to come up with a counter argument, an alternative argument, then he better get stack up. Yeah. All right, because ultimately, as the franchisor, as the bloke who owns the business, the guy who owns the gal who owns the business, we ultimately got to make those decisions. Yeah. All right, somebody has to sign them off. Yeah. All right, you can't go back and out for the vote every time. And I think I'm not one for me gut. I like to have things stack up that confirm what my gut's feeling. Yeah. All right, but ultimately your gut and everything that you've seen has to help you make that decision. So I do have fairly dictatorial tendencies, really. Mm-hmm. But again, if you're running your own business, you've got to have a little bit of that. You can't keep putting everything out for the vote.
At some point, there has to be a decision made, doesn't it?
There isn't. You cannot put it out to the vote. But it's important that you go back a couple of sentences there, Ryan, to let the franchisees learn off each other. Yeah. And I facilitate the hell out of that, you know. Yeah. And you can blow the minds of beginner franchisees, mixing them with the big guys. And the big guys will have got to be wanting to share in there. Yeah. And I think the big guys can learn from some of the naive questions that the newer franchisees ask. Yeah. But because you're in a bit of a cock-swinging competition in these rooms, all right, and the arrogance that goes with being one of the top guys and girls, it's hard in there, but it's a wonderful place to learn if you'll actually listen to these naive questions, yeah. All right, and try, and you should take the time to actually learn from. But there is a time where it has to be peer-to-peer. It has to be the big boys dealing with the big boys and the little guys dealing with each other, yeah. All right, and tapping into whatever's around.
Yeah, what lessons they can learn, but at the same time share the journey together.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting that the bit about the decision making. I'm doing a process at the minute, and so I've gone from making. My mum runs a business with me, but predominantly websites, marketing, collateral, any sales sort of stuff. It's just always been my decision. Like, I just make it, and as we've grown as a business, I've had more people come on board, and more intelligent people with better experience, with bigger salaries, taking on more responsibility. And there's a journey I've gone on, and it's probably been over the last sort of 4 years of bringing skilled people in and having to let them make them decisions or let them bring something to the table because I value their opinion. But I do find it quite difficult sometimes to just go, fucking, it's my decision, this. I'm just going to fucking make this happen. It's irrelevant what you say. And I flick between, like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be letting them make a decision. Let them take that into consideration so I can do other things. And then sometimes I'm just like, fuck what you've got to say. I've got to do it. And it's a difficult journey.
I got this weird phrase that I've acquired from somewhere, Ryan. And he said, you've got to have a chat with yourself.
Yeah.
All right, you've got to sit yourself down and have a good old discussion with yourself. I couldn't have built my business without the old lags. Yeah. All right. I now. So I bought Rainbow when I was 30, 33, 34. I only had 10 years experience as a carpet cleaner. Yeah. My land surveying experience, setting out roads and sewers and working for building companies like Bovis, gave me nothing for the boardroom really, apart from the managers I'd been touched by. Yeah. All right. And then I didn't realise that was the case. But I can't remember, I think it might be the Richard Branson thing where a lot of people will say Branson's a bit of a dickhead. He's just got good people around him. Yeah. And I bought into that. Yeah. Not that I wanted to be a dickhead and have good people around me. I didn't particularly want that type, but if the cap fits and all that lot. But that meant getting good people around me. So I recruited my next door neighbour, all right, Clive, who was a pretty Polly, who was basically tights back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. He was the national accounts manager for selling tights. He became my national accounts manager, which is where I built my business. Yeah. I had the father of a lad who went to school with my eldest daughter, Em, who was a Volvo Ford main dealer manager. Yeah. So he came to me as a car salesman, if you like, you know all about that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he came to me with hardcore sales experience, which I didn't really have. I brought my bank manager in. My bank manager took early retirement from Midland Bank, all right, and you came to join me to help me with the systems and put all the stuff in place. So my boardroom was full of, my management team more than boardroom, was full of people who were on the whole 20 years older than me. Now I could choose to ignore their input. My biggest frustration was because they wouldn't. I used to have to suck it out of them. So I would say, what would they do at Ford? What would they do at Midland Bank? And I'd say, is that all they'd do at Midland Bank? And they didn't realise the knowledge that they had in a lot of cases. It was I didn't realise I was looking for. All right, so I would have to try and suck it out in the boardroom, which then could come in and onto the table and into the argument, so we could argue the toss about it then, to come out with better decisions that ultimately I've got to make. Yeah. But I surrounded myself with so that bit of mentality that you're struggling with at the minute. I'd have recruited these people and shagged them all and got rid of them all, all right, because I knew better. But it started off with, I don't know better. But the knowledge that these guys must have from multinational, international companies, their systems must be absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I brought a guy in from QuickSave, and it was before computers and we had our operations manuals were manuals. I guess your manuals are now
online.
He says in the
videos.
And he says, I remember driving Call Quick, which is a supermarket, and they had a shelf in one of the gaffer's offices that was like 10 foot long, full of manuals. And he basically says, those are our manuals for how we do business here. And he's like, oh, what? And he said, no, that is it. If you want to know how to do the business here, and that's what our manuals are, that us franchisors are. These are our manuals that says this is the way we do business here. All right, and those are the manuals that we pull out. And those things need pulling off, using and refining, and pulling back and using. A lot of franchisors that I will talk to, Ryan, all right, that I've been involved with, don't have an operations manual on their desk during training process. All right, for me, if it's not in the manual, we shouldn't be talking about it. And that happens so often. Is the training should be directly linked to the system, because as a new franchisee, that's what they've got to be following. 100%. Is the ops manual, and that manual needs tweaking all the time.
It needs updating.
It is. When I first started, got my first computer, and we had screensavers. At best, they used to be these whirly things that used to scroll around. For 2 or 3 years, my scroller was the system is the solution. All right, and that would be it. So while I was talking to a franchisee or a new prospect, I'd flick my screen around or say, come and have a look. All right, if you think this is all twaddle, all right, just come and have a look at what. I said, what? Yeah, okay. All right, and the time during that conversation, it would actually mean something.
No, I get it. It's so true that. It's interesting. I suppose when I think about it, what I mean is the journey I'm going through from taking them skillful people on and relinquishing them tasks. That's the bit I'm going through. We have got an amazing squad. Kay is one of them, and I've worked with Kay for about 4 years, and then she came and worked for me, and. I think the journey piece I'm going on now is just the next stage of our business is we're going to grow again, and what sometimes I do struggle with is, I don't know if you can help me, or if you can remember anything with your team, is getting them prepped for that next stage as they come along. Can you remember something like that?
Right, understand my journey, Ryan. All right, remember that question, because every chance I'm going to forget it.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, when I bought Rainbow, bought it for £1, network turnover, 356,000
Wow.
collectively network turnover. almost for 10 years, my turnover doubled, my network turnover
Fucking
doubled.
hell, mate, that is insane.
All right, so it went, what did it go? It went 4, 9, 1.8, 3.7, 7 point something, all right. These people were travelling that journey with me.
Yeah.
All right, so that helps you answer that question.
Yeah.
We were all like, what's going on?
Yeah.
All right, this is like...
buckle yourself
for
in.
For me personally though, Ryan, I was running a business bigger this year than the bigger business than I've ever run, which was last year. Now this business is bigger than this year. Now you imagine doubling your turnover. I mean, it's when people I tell the story, which is the truth, of my turnover doubling year on year. It's like, yeah, well, whatever. But it does happen, and it's a very practical world. In the social media world now, people can talk like this on the back of weird sort of social networky type businesses. Now this is cleaning carpets. Yeah. All right, this is removing crap from people's houses.
But Mel, when you were doing that, were you growing the team, and then the team coming along with it, they must have been stretching themselves and going through the tears and the pain at the same time. It's not enjoyable, is it?
We're having to invent the jobs as well, right? All right, you've alluded to it a little bit. In the early days, it was me, and there was 4 or 5 of us. It was the management team. When I sold up, there was 85, I can't remember, 85 people at head office or in support. A lot of those jobs we were doing ourselves in the beginning. So if you like, I was operations manager as well as doing recruiting.
Yeah.
All right. I then got rid of recruited, so I had to invent the recruiting job description.
Yeah.
Bring somebody in to help me develop that job role, to ultimately know what that job role and that job description was and what's expected from it. Same with marketing, same with operations managers, same as a training manager. So we had to invent each of these jobs. So these jobs didn't exist in my world. They existed in other companies' worlds. And
they're all slightly different as well.
And that's what you would do. You would nick what you can, like we all do. What you can, bastardise the hell out of it, tweak it to suit you. All right. Original ideas, bull. All right. Very few of us have original ideas. All right. Now, I did a lot of my learning from books. All right. I was being stretched to hell. I mean, you know, I remember struggling managing my staff. Yeah. But I was managing staff that were more experienced than I were, and they'd managed more people than I'd ever managed. So you had this weird conundrum.
Did you always feel like you weren't good enough, or not? Did you ever get that sort of feeling like, fucking hell, I'm not ready for this sort of thing?
Nah, my gonads were probably no, Ryan. I don't never remember having that thought. I knew I didn't have the experience. I knew I didn't have the knowledge. Yeah. All right. I think I carried around a certain amount of confidence, though. Yeah. And where the hell come from, I don't know.
Well, you have to have self-belief.
I don't know
self-belief, isn't it?
Ryan, where it come from, I don't know. Yeah. Land surveyor come carpet cleaner, thinks he knows better.
What did your dad do? What did your mum and dad do? What did they do for a job?
My dad died at 58.
Fucking hell, that's young.
All right. So he worked 7 days a week for the whole of my life. Did the war. Up the front in the war at 18. Wow. He was a medic, so couldn't carry a gun, and he was at the front line. So he had shell shock, he had electrocution treatment, he had the whole shooting match. So that was where my dad came from. He was a child protege with a violin, so he played at the Albert Hall when he was 11.
Wow, amazing.
Right, he played at the Queen's Hall in London when he was 9, I think. All right, so he was a child protege, so he should have gone that way. The war screwed all that lot up, if you like. Yeah. And there was then post-war he became a tailor. So my dad, Ryan, to the day he died, he had 3 insurance rounds, so collecting insurance monies. His main job was collecting television rental, and he had his own little business as a talisman, working predominantly selling to the West Indians that were coming over from the Windies, all right, and they would want a nice suit or they needed some clothing. So he worked for himself on a Sunday. He television collected rental 5 days a week and 3 nights of the year. So my dad worked his nuts off to the day he died. The longest holiday I had till I was 18 was 4 days. All right, and that would have been potentially sleeping in a caravan.
Where does that work ethic lie anymore? Where's that graft? You can't fucking say. I can't say that in this company. Everyone's like, you've got to have a day off.
So I know, it is your work. Like I mentioned, I lead from the front, and my work ethic has obviously come from Dad.
Yeah.
My dad died worth nothing now. Yeah. He sold insurance policies, he sold life policies. All right, he didn't have his own. So the 4 kids all had to whip round to actually pay for his funeral. All right. So one of the things I sort of swore to myself, Ryan, was I wasn't going to die, all right, not being able to pay for my funeral.
Yeah.
All right. So that was a big reason for me, was to actually build and grow the business, so I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, Ryan, people will call me an entrepreneur. They'll call you an entrepreneur. I'm uncomfortable with the entrepreneur thing. All right, I've grown a couple of businesses. All right, bit of a one-trick pony. So I'm always going to be a bit reluctant to be called an entrepreneur. But it's that working your nuts off, I think, and leading from the front, which I think sets me over and above most other people. And my kids are all very reluctant to work for themselves. Daughter's a lawyer.
Yeah.
All right, the eldest daughter's a lawyer, middle one's in education, and Charlie's a transport planner down in London.
Yeah.
So very well educated.
Yeah.
All right, me and Sue, my wife, we always said we would work our, me predominantly work my nuts off, Sue work hers off in a different way, looking after the kids, to give the kids the best education we could give them. They all went private education, all went to good unis, and then it's up to them what journey. None of them really fancy, because I think they carry around watching me work and knowing what the 2 of them especially went without while I was actually going through what I was doing.
Yeah. Interesting. I've had this conversation with lots of people on this podcast about being a dad and growing up with the kids. And see, my dad, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in without my dad. My dad come from poverty, lived on an estate in Bolton. Mum and dad were absolutely skint, and they died quite young as well. And he just worked his arse off, car salesman trainer, multi-level marketing, franchising, and that's where he kind of went in. And I'm like literally fucking potless when he was a kid, and built himself up and done all right for himself. Mm-hmm. And we're in this position now because of my dad, really. And Mum was there supporting, and she's always worked in the business as well. But he's been the driving force. Mum always describes it as him being the doctor and her being the nurse, and he goes around ripping all the hearts out, and then she goes around making it all look nice again. And I think it's a bit like that now, being mum, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's. I always remember my dad for being an inspiring dad. I always remember my dad for the teaching me the skills I got. I think by the time I was 16, I could close most people. I could pretty much write anyone up and close them down into a deal and ask them if they could buy it, would they? You know, I was pretty good at that. So I think he taught me them skills. Do I care that he didn't go to the park with me and play football? Do I care that he didn't pick me up from school sometimes? No, none of it fucking matters to me. I think that the bit that gets me is the skills that he took, and he's probably the most inspiring person I know, and still is. And I'm 42 years old, so I don't know what is right or wrong, or if there is a right or wrong.
It is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and we are who we are, and we come from where we come from. Yeah, look back and see what you can actually learn from it. Yeah. I suppose we're touching on a little bit of those franchisees that look in one direction. Those franchisees, this is, if we now look at ourselves in this way, we could say, oh shit, it was so hard done by, and that's why I'm in the position I'm in, and life ain't going. Or you say, well, it taught me so much, and I've actually, travelled this journey because of. Yours is a bit more awkward now, right? So what are you, mid-40s or something now?
42, yeah.
40. You got to be a bit wary of the journey you travel now for the next generation that you're actually bringing through. Yeah. You ain't starting from the same place as your old man.
No.
Your old man story is probably a bit easier than the story that you potentially looking and starting to write now, writing now, mid-writing now. So, it's but it ain't all about, it all ain't about growth though and everything. And that balance, I sometimes query whether I got my balance right. Yeah. And the Americans that I dealt with, I don't know if you ever touched on it, they do a thing called the wheel. Nope. And it used to be this wheel and the segments of the wheel. I'm only going to vaguely touch on it because I can't remember it properly. Yeah. But there'll be things in there like family, wealth, religion, and you have to work all of these. And in some cases, some of them, health, wealth, happiness.
Yeah.
And some of them you're working your nuts off and you're really good at, successful at it, and others you spend no time at all.
Yeah.
And you can't get this wheel to roll in the shape that it is. So it's trying to get that wheel into such a way and all of these things balance so as it can roll in some shape or form.
Yeah.
My wheel would have been, total.
Yeah.
My wheel was sort of so wonky, there was no chance of it actually travelling.
I think all honesty, I do think I'm doing okay. I do think I've got the balance right, but I do know there's points where I have to, and it's not something I take lightly when I do it, but like I'm away, I think last year I was away nearly every week. I did so many thousand fucking miles, and I'm away quite a lot at the minute. But we've got the joy of technology, FaceTime, text messages, video. We can cover most of the bases most of the time, to be honest with you. But then I look at the time the off time I have. If I go on holiday, I don't need to check the bank. I just go on holiday, and I can go and have a really nice holiday. And if the kids want whatever they want, I go to wherever and do whatever I want when I'm on holiday. So that's the way I kind of look at it, is that, all right, I'm away, I'm working a lot, I cry, I get upset, I'm tested more than I've ever been before, I've got an appetite for growth, I'm consistently looking forward, I'm always looking at the next stages, I'm always looking at the team's next stages and how I can develop them, and bringing in coaches and putting them on qualifications and doing all that, and testing myself to the nth degree that I'm sometimes in bits in the car. But then when I want the downtime, I have great downtime. And also mixed in with all that, I do a lot of self-care. So at the minute I'm doing running in the morning, training at night. I always make sure I get the kids breakfast, and I always make sure I put them to bed when I'm here. So I guess you kind of got to make peace with whatever situation you're in, because I've got mates who work in the army.
Correct.
And they're away for weeks.
Absolutely.
I've got mates who work in personal security, and they're offshore and can't even fucking contact the family.
You do the best job you can do.
I think the key
you
is,
do the best you can.
If you were aware, that's the key, isn't it? If you were aware that you need to do your bit when you're there, I think that's the key, isn't it? Whatever situation you're in, be it you have to work away, be it you're divorced and you're in another country, you're like, as long as you're aware and you can do your bit, I think that's the piece, isn't it? I think if you're not aware, that's the killer. I think if you're not really caring about it, then I think that I would find that difficult.
If you're too selfish.
Yeah, you're too selfish.
If you're too selfish.
Yeah.
I think I was predominantly too selfish, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
Would I change anything? No, I can't, because I can't do anything about
You
time
can't
travel.
regret anything.
But do I give people advice? If someone was talking to me sounding like me now, I don't think I'd knock them back a great deal.
No.
If that's the journey they're travelling, all right, and I ain't going to say I wish I'd have done it. I wish I'd have done it. The way I did work, didn't it? And my kids, I couldn't be more proud of my kids.
Do your kids love you?
I presume so. Yeah. You can only presume so.
I think the master of being a good parent is always if that relationship's still there when you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
If as long as you can go back and sort the relationship out, I think that's what's the pinnacle of being a successful parent. I think that's it, innit?
Absolutely.
If your kids are still talking to you after 18, I think that's it, innit? Everything else is just a fucking byproduct. It is what it is.
It's nice being a granddad as well. Now.
Yeah, I bet it is.
No, I love doing the granddad thing and spoiling the kids and giving them back, giving them a good shake and giving them back to the parents.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to go back for your career now, but I just need to get them questions off my chest because it's so important. Them bits, I think they're the bits that if I look at things so selfishly because they're the bits I struggle with growing a business, and then I know buying and selling a business is so interesting as well. We've not actually sold any Tezlom franchises yet.
Are you? Can I interject?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you building your business to sell it?
No.
Right. Now let me argue the toss with that one.
Go for it.
Then. Have you ever heard of Gerber? Michael Gerber?
No.
All right. Note to everyone out there and your good self: pick up Gerber's book called The E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth, and it's why people run a business.
Yeah.
And what do you do? All right. And you'll read it, and all your fellow franchisees will read it. All right, and they'll read it and think, this is so real. It isn't a motivational book, all right, but in essence it talks a lot about franchising, and it talks about building your business so as you can sell it. And building your business so as you can sell it is, in my understanding, is you build it so as it doesn't depend on you.
Yeah.
All right, and any time anybody can knock the door, all right, and say, is your business up for sale, and is it in the best condition it can ever be in at the time of them knocking on the door. Yeah. All right, which is what happened to me almost coincidentally. all right? So as you're building your business, but I would run an E-Myth program on the first morning of my franchisees training.
Right.
Talking to them about building their business to sell it, it meant bugger all to them. They got confused by me running the whole thing. But as time went on, all of a sudden, the penny dropped. That what you're doing is building a business that doesn't depend on you.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a piece of advice you can potentially heed, because it means getting off the tools. It means not being involved with everything that you should be involved with.
Okay, so I'm not going to defend myself, but I'll tell you my story, and then you'll understand a little bit better. But you are right. You're 100% right, and it's completely the right thing to do. I have got myself into that situation. Kay, you'll vouch for me, won't you? So I have got myself into that situation, but the economy was tough. COVID hit, then we went into the temporary staffing market, and I had to get back on the tools. But I am trying to get myself into a situation where I've got some core team members who are shareholders. I'm going to give them some shares, and we're going to work out a plan, and I've already started that and implemented that. So they become shareholders in the franchising business. And I get myself into a position where I do motivational talks. This podcast gets bigger, and I get invited to with the some franchise networks. I think people struggle with sales. Sales is I'm pretty good at it. I'd say I'm one of the best, and I can sell things, and I can teach people how to sell things as well, and the psychological behind it as well. And I can get onto a level. So that's where I want to go, but I still want to keep Tezlom. I've been in a situation before where we could have sold Tezlom, and I walked away from that. I'm 42. It would have to be a huge amount of money to sell it, but at the same difference, I know money really doesn't change anything for me. I think when you get to a certain level of earning money, and you get to a certain, like, I've not got much left on my mortgage. I'm in a comfortable situation. There's not much more I can buy that would massively change my life. The only thing I would do is maybe facilitate some retreats or things for entrepreneurs and things like that.
Let me cut across you, Ryan.
Go on.
Because I am prone to doing this.
Yeah, go on.
All right.
Go do it.
All right. You misunderstand what I was trying to say.
Go for it.
All right. I'm not saying you've got to sell your business.
But run it to a step.
Run it to a point. So all of these things that you're talking about can all happen.
Yeah.
These things are all happening. All right. But what you, in theory, can have is a team that runs Tezlom.
Yeah.
All right, but you still can interfere, still be part of,
that's
still be done. And that gives you the freedom of, but that's building the business. And I will teach my franchisees, I will teach everybody.
Yeah.
Whether you ever sell your business is totally up to you. Let me confuse you a tad.
Go for it.
I will say, if you were a little bit older and thinking of selling your business, I would now queer your pitch and say, do you really want to sell your business? Yeah, the fucking deal's brilliant and it's that and it's great and it's the other. But it's already churning X to the bottom line. Yeah. All right, can't you go sideways, carry on going sideways, take the money, have the lifestyle that you want, and this business carries on growing because of the systems you've put in place?
That's what I want.
So I will advise to people to not sell the business. One of them, I wish I hadn't. It wouldn't have been the end of the world. If I was talking to myself 20 years ago when I sold it, Brian, I'd have said, don't sell. Yeah. All right? I sold a 45, it's 45 for 10 million quid. Yeah. All right? 20 years ago. So it was worth a few bob. Yeah, it's worth a few bob now. All right? But back then it was worth a few bob. All right? My business needed to be sold. I had European competitors after me. All right, they were saying they were going to wipe me out, and these were multi-billion pound businesses. Because I was the market leader in the UK, all right, these companies were starting to say, you're out of here. So when I had a company like ISS, who were a multi-billion pound company as well, want to take me on board, I said, fucking bring it on. All right, so the timing was right for my business. I'd have had an awkward discussion with myself, Ryan, at that time, continuing this discussion that we're just having about don't sell. All right, I advise people that I work closely with or meet at a party, makes a difference to me, that I'm going to talk the sermon according to anyway and say, don't look at selling it, but build it as if you're going to sell it.
Run it to that.
Run it as, build it, grow it as you're going to sell it. And I will give any advice, like I repeat myself, to anybody saying that's the way. All right, not because somebody's going to knock on your door at any time, it's because somebody could, and it's the most profitable and it's as successful as it can. Yeah. You mentioned about bumps in the road, Ryan. That's all they are. All right. I built businesses during recession. I've took kicks in the arse because of, etc., etc. Those are just bumps in the road. If the objective is still the same, and the great thing with us people who own our own business, and this is where people get confused with business plans, they think they've got to stick firmly to the journey that the business plan lays out. It's my business plan, I can tweak it accordingly.
It's true. All
right, and I expect my business plan to react. I still travel with a map in my car, Ryan. You're going to think, and your face says, what you're going about with a map in his car. Business plan is about a roadmap, and it sets us out on a journey. I will put it in my sat-nav in the car. I will put it in my phone, and to this day I may still pick up, so as I've got a picture in my head of the journey I'm travelling in my map book. Yeah. All right, so I will refer to. I will speak to huge amounts of business people, all right, that don't have business plans, because it changes. Yeah, but it changes in my direction, not because of. And market forces may make me change the business plan. But if I've still got a clear direction, a clear objective, or I want to get somewhere slightly different, that's my choice. It's my choice as the bloke who's running the business, as the chairman of the business, the owner of the business, that if we want to go, we take on what's happening to the market. Opportunities might come up. We may need to acquire something. And you ain't going to say, oh, no, I'm not going to acquire it because that doesn't fit in with my business plan. Somebody goes, here's an acquisition at the right price. Let's have a look at this acquisition at the right price. Can we bolt this in? My business plan now needs rewriting, but it's my business plan. All right, but I'm probably going to need different things. That's what my road journey, my map and my atlas is all about. Ryan is actually referring back to, from. That's why I've always made my franchisees write a business plan. I will always share my business plan with my franchisees. Penny to a pinch of shit, you don't share your business plan with your franchisees.
No.
Do you have a business plan?
Not for this side of us, no. But I have one for the franchisees.
Why do franchisees have one and not you? I ain't going to bother listening to whatever answer you're going to come up with.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it?
As a franchisor, we carry around with us, I don't know whether you do. I'm a seasoned franchisor. Forgive the handshaking, guys.
Yeah, that's right, go for it.
Emotions kicked in a tad.
Yeah, no, go for it.
80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, 80% of businesses don't have business plans. I reckon there's some sort of direct correlation.
I think you're probably right.
All right, I'm going to put a punt on that.
I think you're probably right, yeah.
All right, you've made one of the biggest faux pas I can have speaking to a fellow franchisor. All right, and I love it. I love your honesty, Ryan. I don't have one, but my franchisees do. I love that answer.
Yeah.
All right, it plays straight down my street. All right, it's straight on my franchisees would have a slightly edited version of my business plan.
Yeah.
All right, purely because I would say I'm showing you mine.
Yeah.
All right, I want you to show you mine. How can I help a franchisee get to wherever they want to go?
Yeah.
If they haven't got a business plan that my support staff can help them get there with. Otherwise, you have these really ambiguous discussions, and that's why it's important for my franchisees to have a business plan. Any business I'm involved with to have a business plan. As a non-exec director, how can I sit in the boardroom with a company not having a clue as to what direction you're going in? Yeah. How can I help you get there? How can us as a franchisor help a franchisee get somewhere if they haven't got a business plan? How can I expect them to not have a business plan if I haven't got one?
It's true, that.
I ain't saying you have to share it with the franchisees.
Yeah,
that doesn't have to be a law in my world.
I think
it's something I would readily do, though.
Yeah, I can see. I can completely understand your logic. I think from my perspective is the business plan for me and Mum is just to carry on growing the business to a certain. There is a plan. There's a 5-year plan. There's a 3-year plan. We're what month are we on? March into the 3-year plan of where I want to get to. But is it done financially? No.
You break it down into bite sizes. How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
It's breaking it down into bite size. What you have is you have a goal in 5 years.
Yeah.
How are you going to achieve that goal?
Yeah.
And you have to plan out that journey and how to travel there, right?
I have got that. I have got like a 3-year journey plan. To be honest with you, I've got a coach. You know Emily, don't you? From this BFA, Emily Price. Do you know Emily? So she's like second in command with Pip, and she's my coach. And we've got. She's going to tell me off because I haven't actually finished it off. But basically, she said to me, do a 3-year plan. and then describe it to the team, so then the team can see where they're fitting and their journey. Yeah. So
you're travelling on a journey, fighting a battle with people who don't know what the battle is, who they're fighting, and what their role is within the journey.
Yeah.
You on a daily basis talk about job descriptions.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, all the time. I don't, but the team does. Yeah.
All right, coalface. It's all about job descriptions, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the job entail? How am I going to get rewarded for it? How am I going to know if I'm doing the job properly? You just have to bring that in house, right? And that's all part of what it is that you do. So I'd like to think that all your team have very strong.
Well, we can do it after the podcast. You can help me
out. The horse has to come out at some stage. It has to be kicked from underneath me, right? I'm sorry. This is you sort of interviewing me, but by doing this, you're seeing a bit more of the real me, if there's such a thing. Because this is the way I'm programmed. My missus will be, and my kids will be sitting if while they're watching this thinking.
I love it though, mate. That
is just so. I need to share, Ryan.
Yeah, mate.
I am full of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, now whether
are you really going to pack it all, and you're not going to get involved in anything else?
I can't.
You're not. You're 67. My mum's 71.
I can't. Nobody wants me.
You can come work here.
I haven't put myself.
You could come work here, mate. I'll take you on.
We both need boxing gloves in some shape. I don't know, big and padded. Probably a padded room. I work with a padded gloves. But I am so full of it, and yeah, I'm disappointed in myself that I'm not sharing it. I have a very good friend who was chairman of ESPN, and he's forever beating the crap out of me because I don't share. All right, because for 10, 15 years I worked at the Prince's Trust as well.
Right.
So I'm quite capable. I remember where I come from, and I'm quite capable of working with someone who's got no money, coming from nowhere, coming from a shit background and wanting to start and run their own businesses. So I can sit in any boardroom that you want and have the same old discussions, and I can sit and talk to the person who's fancying doing their own business. All right, and I am that millionaire, but I never forget where I come from.
Yeah.
All right, and I don't use a millionaire. I've never said the word millionaire and pointed at myself so many times ever, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right, it just sort of, I'm doing that to try and knock myself. And so I remember knocking the doors. My dad, we talked about my dad earlier. My dad used to say, "Get off your fat arse." All right, on a Saturday afternoon, we're going door knocking. And he wouldn't let me stop door knocking until we booked a day and a half's worth of carpet cleaning. All right, he would not. So we'd do one side of the street, I'd do the other, and we'd knock the doors until 9:30 on a Saturday night. His mentality was people used to go shopping on a Saturday morning in the olden days. All right, and we go shopping, so they shopping mentality, so they might buy on a Saturday afternoon more than they would. It was like I never did a Saturday with my dad that we didn't book that work in and didn't do that work. So it was always that meant. So I can knock doors. So if I say to you that you're knocking the doors you need to, it doesn't physically mean, in your world, it's picking a bloody phone up.
Yeah.
Doing it. It's a doing. In my world, all right, the picking the phone up didn't work right because I didn't know who they were, where they lived.
Yeah.
All right, the only way I could say is this is the right sort of house that might have the wealth and the carpets that I want to clean. And you have to identify it and walk up the drive and knock on the door. I will say to people, walk up the drive, don't just push the leaflet for God's sake. Knock on the door. All right, you've done that hardish. Most of it's
walking up the drive.
Walking up the drive. Don't hit that letterbox and run. All right, for God's sake, you're there.
Yeah.
All right, ask for I'm talking to you about closing and selling it.
Yeah.
But it's like you've done the hard bit. You've done the hard miles. Get there. So I can and I love sharing. All right, I am full of, and I love sharing. When I'm in my non-exec role, Ryan, you sit in a boardroom. It's one of the most rewarding and most frustrating jobs you'll ever do.
Yeah.
All right, because in the boardroom you share. All right, me probably being critical because no one else will be critical. Because I ain't worried about saying whatever to whoever owns the business. It makes diddly squat.
Well,
to
they're
me.
paying. Well, they want to be there.
It makes diddly squat to me.
Yeah.
No one's ever paid me what I should be paid in a boardroom. But I always felt that they needed me, and the deal always has been: I will come in, I will share. All right, you can suck me, bleed me dry. Yeah. All right, but you better do something with it.
Yeah.
Don't let me turn up the next board meeting.
And you've not done anything with it.
You've done nothing with it.
Yeah, fuck that.
All right, that's a deal. I always have the deal, Ryan. Is don't do. Don't pat me on the head and give. I don't need the money. I don't need the money. If you like, I need the reward.
Yeah.
Of saying I've shared a little bit of something, and they've taken it and run with. And I can say that with Premier Sport and with Revive, that happened in all the cases. There was always stuff, and they just took it on to the next level. So I am a party. Somebody will mention something to me, Ryan. God damn, am I boring for the next however long they are?
No, you're not.
They are. Let me assure you, I am actually. Because you'll get what you're seeing here, Ryan.
Yeah.
Is what you got. Because I took time to actually learn what it takes to run a successful business, especially in franchising.
When you took Rainbow on, did you find yourself doing more operational stuff, or did you get knocking on the doors again?
No, operational. Franchisees, concentration. I stopped recruiting. I didn't recruit for 2 years. All right, the systems weren't good enough, the support wasn't good enough. So I didn't recruit for 2 years. So it was stop the recruiting. Yeah. All right, get out there and work with a franchisee. So no, mine was on the tools, a different set of tools, Ryan. Getting to the cold face, working with the franchisees.
Yeah.
But I would take franchisees to insurance companies, to loss adjusters, to brokers, and help them do the sales. I would go to the insurance companies, trying to pick work from insurance companies at the same time as I was working with franchisees. Yeah. So no, it was make sure we got the system the way we wanted to get the system, and it needed re-engineering. So no, I'm comfortable doing it. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it. None of us like the cold calling.
Yeah, I'd not would it?
Yeah, I'd rather not. There's a lot. But if it's a necessary, then yeah.
Got to do it, haven't you?
So be it. You just go. It's just a numbers game after that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The more doors you knock, the closer you get, and all that stuff. You know, the closer you get to your next job and all the rest of it.
So you sold. So how did it go? You sold Rainbow was the last company you sold, was it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then.
No, Chemex was the last one I sold.
Chemex. What, do you want to talk about that at all or not?
No.
Leave it alone.
I lost £1 million on Chemex over 10, 12 years, yeah. That was, it's worth talking to.
Can I won't ask about that.
No, you can, don't worry, crack on.
What I wanted to talk to you about is because we've talked a lot about success.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with the downtimes? I know that you might not, some of the older guys in the world, mental health is like a bit of a... Mm-hmm. How have you dealt with the tough times, mate? What's got you through the old fuck moments? What's got you through the bits that you think, fucking hell, this is the end, or I've never thought that, I don't think this is good. What's got you through that? How have you coped?
Ryan, I don't think I have those sort of thoughts.
Ever? Even when we lost £1 million?
Oh man, we come onto this earth with nothing.
Yeah.
We're going to go off this earth with nothing. All right. Lessons cost in some shape or form. Did I learn from that? Yeah. Was it £1 million worth of lessons? No, it wasn't. All right. It was an expensive lesson.
Yeah.
But I learned lessons. The people around me would have learned lessons. Yeah. So, it's going to be arsey, isn't it? Losing £1 million wasn't the end of the world.
It's fine.
All right. It was...
In the scale of things.
In the scale of things, but it's... I made a mistake. I've always said don't have partners.
Yeah.
All right. I never let any of the shares of my business go, with the exception of my accountant who bought 5%. Yeah. When I bought Rainbow, I paid £1 for it. I had £100,000 in the bank. I put that in to the business, wrote a business plan, potentially the first ever business plan I've written. The banks needed to see it. The banks wouldn't lend me any money, but they needed to see the business plan. Yeah. And I put 100 grand in. That proved to the man Brewer in the city that was what the chance was. I offered 3 fellow directors, as were at the time that I bought across with me, 5% of the business for 5 grand each. One of them, my financial director, because I needed some help. I needed another 20 grand to put into the business, I thought. I offered both of my other friends the 5 grand as a loan to buy the 5%. They didn't. So when I subsequently sold up, they didn't have a payday. Chris Roach, my FD, had a payday, all right, because he had 5%. 2 weeks before the brown envelope landed on my desk of someone offering to buy my business, I agreed with Chris to sell him another 5%. He asked if he could buy 5%. So I didn't need the money, didn't want the money. My business had £3.5 million in the bank. His profit of 1.7 million. I didn't need it. He wanted to buy. He was back to the beginning. I agreed with him. Handshake. I then sold the business for 10 million. The day that I sold the business, 5 minutes before, I sold Chris's 5%.
Oh, you're a good man.
So that did me out of £750,000. All right, £500,000, whatever the maths is. All right, because we'd handshook on it. Both of my other directors didn't actually do. I always said never have partners. I'm not the biggest fan of partners. Franchising almost lends itself in the world that I lived in, husband and wife partnerships, etc. Probably similar to yourselves, really, Ryan. All right, so it's husband and wife, so that there's that partnership. No arguing that one. But the wife or the husband's involved anyway. Tough shit. If your other half's taken on a business and they're going to start, you are going to be involved in some shape or form, all right? If it's phoning or looking after the kids or doing extra hours to help support, that's the way it is. I took on partners with Chemex. I shouldn't have done. That was my mistake. All right. One of the guys approached me and says, Chemex looks like it's up for business. Shall we buy it? I said, I don't want any involvement in buying the business. And then I thought, if Sean fancies a go at this, okay, I don't particularly just want to work directly with Sean, so what about Nick? I'll keep the names out of it just for the sake of. And Nick joined us as well. And so the deal was 3-way partnership, equal money in the pot, split 3 ways. Yeah. Very quickly it turned to rat shit. We got duped on buying the business. There was £1 million worth less profit than there was. We went after the company, which was a chemical manufacturing company, and they wound the business up when we went after them. So we took the hit. So that's why I ended up in debt. Yeah. I struggled with the partnerships as well, because I wasn't working in a business on a day-to-day business, because I was external. Yeah. They weren't running it the way I would run it, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah,
that goes with
everyone's learned a lesson, though, haven't they?
That's it, and that's my lesson. And adversity, like I say, come on here through nothing, you're going to go off the earth.
Have you ever lost anyone to you? Have you ever come for any sort of depression? Have you ever had any sort of troubles health-wise? Like, I just always find like...
I've had cancer scares. I do the cancer scares, Brian, yeah. I don't know, maybe I should. Maybe I should, no. And I'll say I don't get depressed. I think in the recent past, in the last couple of years, I suppose I would have had touches of depression, with my health being not as good as it could be. Have I ever sought advice? No, not really.
Turn to the wife.
She cops it all.
Yeah.
She would cop it all and
have to get her on the podcast.
And cock a Defford. It's only him again, which is almost what I would need to hear. Ryan. My daughter suffered with depression very badly, so
yeah.
So yes, those are hard times way back.
It's tough,
way back when, yeah.
I was just looking at you because a big part of my life is running. I like to run, and quite often I'll run in the dark and cry my eyes out sometimes. And I know it sounds probably a bit of a wuss move at that stage, but I've got to a point in my life I don't really give a fuck what people think about me in that respect. That's how I cope, and I cope with a lot of shit. So it's...
in my boardroom, I probably shared tears one-on-one in my boardroom, probably with all my senior members of staff, Ryan.
Yeah. Do you get... I'm going to try and wind this podcast up, but I don't really want to cover anything else. This was more what I wanted to cover with you, because I fundamentally know you've done amazing with your life and career. It's incredible. But it's how you did it is what I want to know. The nitty-gritty stuff. And this is where I've enjoyed this podcast. I hope you have.
No, good. No, nice. Very good.
But it's that bit of like, how well did you get to know your team? And did you go through hell together to get where you wanted to be? Did they all go through it together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had much. That's what I'm saying. I think that's, back that one sentence there. That's what the tears were about. Yeah. We'd have been pushing the envelope. We'd have been
when you're doing the annual turnover
at the edge all the time, and so that was bringing additional pressure on the business all the time.
They were going through growth. You were going through growth.
They were going through growth. Yeah, they were in places that they weren't used to being. We were all in places we weren't used to being. We were travelling journeys we weren't used to being. My little boardroom was quite a lot of pressure. At one stage, Ryan, we could lose 40% of our business by losing one insurance company.
Wow.
And we were always on the edge. All right, that was forever.
Wow.
All right, as we tried to put more eggs in the basket and have more clients, it was at the time that insurance companies were all merging, loss adjusters were all merging. So we'd acquire a business from another company, it needed to get acquired by another one. So almost at any one time, 40% of my business was with one insurance company. That one insurance company could make one phone call, send me one email, and say that's because the contracts that we had weren't really fixed contracts. They couldn't be because of the type of work we were in. And so at any one time, I could sort of say, we're going to lose 40% of our business overnight. So that carried a whole heap of pressure. The insurance companies put us under massive pressure as well by squeezing. We had to reduce our margin by 40% 1 year.
Wow.
40%.
Fucking hell, that's insane with the overheads.
One of the most profitable years we ever had.
What? Because you just went out and attacked?
You know, as a salesman,
yeah,
somebody's kicked you in the nuts.
Well, I'll be honest with you, we lost our biggest client in COVID. When the overseas workers came over, I told you about it downstairs. We lost our biggest client. What I did, took a salesperson on and fucking went out and attacked.
That's a salesman, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what's necessary. And I think that's the same for all business people, is you can actually go, oh, woe is me.
Yeah,
or you can say, you bastard, okay.
I'm going to come for
you.
And you
know the business is there. I know I'm good enough. I know my business is good enough. I'm coming after it. I've just got to work harder to actually get the same as I was getting before. And that's why I've grown and started businesses, Ryan, at the start of recession. People, on the whole, will not start a business at the beginning of recession. Starting a business is hard enough anyway.
Yeah.
All right, starting it in a recession. And I think what happens is you plant more seeds because you have to. You have to knock more doors.
Yeah,
you work harder. And lo and behold, it starts picking up and then it pick up.
Groundwork.
Because you've done all the groundwork. Aye. And people don't appreciate all that. I think there's just a lot more groundwork during recession. So during adverse times, yeah.
We're doing so much fucking groundwork.
Yeah,
like I said to you, got a salesperson starting Monday. I'm just going out all guns loaded and locking the guns.
Blazed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you have to become a bit more focused. Yeah. All right, you can become a bit sporadic.
All the fluffy stuff got to go away.
Absolutely, go. What's going to make a difference in my business? And you can get as well be a bit naive and go after the big stuff and miss the little fish, and it's the little fish that are going to make and what you're going to build your business on.
That being too, like, that 1% growth, then 1%'s all over the place.
Absolutely. And I think that's better than trying to go for a 30%. People get big jobitis.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap the podcast up.
Okay, mate.
I really... I don't know if you, mate, I have absolutely loved every second of this podcast.
No, it's been good, enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's been me all over, really, Ryan. It's been good.
That's what I wanted.
And thank you for letting me front you up.
Yeah, mate.
All right, now that's good. Cut it out by all means. So is your
No.
So is your franchisees.
No, listen.
So is your franchisees and your mates.
Listen, KO vouch for me. I fucking love all that, mate. I need to be tested.
Recruit some old farts with experience, Ryan.
Yeah.
Get them in and around you, mate. Get them putting you under pressure.
Thanks, mate.
No, most enjoyable. Thank you.
Cheers.